All right, hello, everybody. I call this meeting to order. My name is Douglas Ford. It's Wednesday, Mayor, April. And sorry, this is Wednesday, April 29th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Director Williams, is going to get the roll call, please.
Francie,
Here.
Aiken, Hodgkin,
Here.
Hubbard,
Here.
Moynihan,
Here.
Nipper, here, Fredo,
Here.
Ragic,
Here.
Shaw,
Here.
Swore, here, Taylor,
Here.
Wilson, here, Four.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we please gather and participate? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Yes,
Second.
is there any discussion? Motion to excuse council. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. And now we can move on to approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Right into public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment? None? Right on to Council President Swan, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes minutes from the April 22nd meeting.
Second.
First and seconded, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I don't have a mirror. I'm sorry, but we did have a beautiful day and the ice cream out of Clark's is really good on our day. All right, do we have any council reports? Let's start with our student representative.
All right, I sent an email to over 40 different communities in Washington regarding the importance of a student rep on the council. So far, the mayor pro tem of Liberty Lake has responded, hoping the other communities will soon. Also, at the last meeting, I talked about the cowboy barbecue, but there's a council meeting that date. But for the people who are not on council, the barbecue is May 13th. From 6 to 7:30 p.m. and it's $10. If you're free, I encourage you to attend and support the Skills USA students. Also, the AHS musical Once Upon a Mattress starts this Friday, May 1st, and again Sunday, May 3rd. Then after that, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. That's all.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other council reports?
Just a EDAC update. After our workshop, we had another EDAC meeting and we went over what we heard from council. And one of the things that we heard pretty loud and clear that we had not been considering real heavily was youth activities. We have invited Justin to join us. And I talked to him just this evening. We're going to start brainstorming some ideas and see what we can do to tackle that, as well as the other priorities that we've all discussed.
All right, thanks. Councilperson Price.
Well, I helped out with clean with the Herbert residue, and it's about 117 pounds of garbage and 27 pounds of cement. And that was not the only one there. There's 10 people there. I also took part in the museum collection committee. So a lot of the times we just go with stuff that doesn't have anything to do with Aberdeen. But this time there was a book from the Finnish people about their lived experiences of Aberdeen and like stories. It's pretty cool listening to them talk about the Wishkah Bridge. There were some kids concerned about like going up and down. And they mentioned that the guy that runs it was waving out and sure they were safe. There's other ones talking about like, oh, the Wishkah River, what a smell. There's other like really interesting little stories.
It's
Sorry, Dr. Clifton.
Thank you. The finished pub meets in my building, honestly, if you're interested in one of them. Okay, Councilperson Swan.
Yes, last Friday, council members Moynihan, Wilson, and myself attended the Small City Connectors event in Elma. It's put on by Association of Washington Cities. I saw a couple of familiar faces from the council leaders exchange and made some new acquaintances as well. I really can't say enough good things about the events and the training opportunities that AWC offers. So if you're not already taking advantage of those, you really should be. That's it.
I scheduled myself to go to that meeting and then something. Yeah, I love going to those. They're very educational. And being a council. Team number going to the staff reports, the administrative times.
Thank you, Mayor. We met this week. I met with a team of directors to discuss the disability rate that we hope to bring to the council. So this would be a disability low income rate, so it'll be similar to the senior low income rate. So more to come on that information as we crunch the numbers to see if it's possible to introduce this new rate and how it will impact those who don't qualify for the rate. So thank you to Finance Director Williamson, who is working on that.
That's a good question. Is that, disabled folks that might not be 60 years old?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I have a customer that's about that.
Right, but they do have to be low income. So one of the things that Katie has been able to do is to look at other cities, and a lot of cities have a lot of different types of ways that they go about introducing this rate. So she's exploring it and seeing what the number. She's been reached out to the PUD to see how, because they have a disability rate, and to see how many customers they have. So that gives us an idea of how, potentially how many customers will be applying for it. So did you want to add anything to that, or were you, okay? Okay, all right. We also met with our community development group, our building official and director Lisa Scott, to discuss the vacant building program and the evolution of that and the things that we'll be introducing in that program to encourage compliance. And that will be a partnership also included, or that will work in tandem with code enforcement. So more to come on that as well. Staff are working on a lot of different things. And we also met with managers today to give them an update on what's happening around the city. So this was the first meeting of its kind where we had all of the directors meet, and we met with all the middle managers here at the city, and just to discuss like the projects and things like that. So we plan to host that meeting twice a year. It seemed like it was positive, and we were able to get a lot of information to them, which ideally they would share with their teams. And lastly, we are working on a coordination model, an interdepartmental coordination model for homeless response. And so with that model, we will be hopefully introducing some of the model to our community, I guess, social service providers. That's like CAP, Destination Hope and Recovery, DSHS. We invited a whole slew of people, organizations to join us next Friday at the Log Pavilion to discuss their processes and to see how the city can better organize. We had met with them 2 years ago. I think I've stated that before. We met with them a couple of years ago, and they loved the meeting that we hosted with them. And the hope was that they would take that and run, recognizing that there was a need for it, but they didn't. So this is the second meeting, and again, the city's hosting it. So I'm going to take that as the city is the lead organization on this coordination effort, and that they are looking to the city for leadership. So I'm going to take that and run with it and see what we can come up with. Again, that meeting is next Friday at the Log Pavilion. For those of you who are interested, I'd like to thank Councilmember Moynihan, who will be attending that and is going to champion that effort, as well as Councilmember Taylor, who will also be assisting me with kind of the effort as well due to his profession.
So what time, Ruth?
That will be from 9 a.m. till noon. It's not going to be open to the public because I want this to be a space where we're working. And so it's just going to be just a meeting to meet with all of these, but other council members, yes, you're welcome to attend. And then, tomorrow I have my quarterly meeting with the city administrators or Grace Harbor city administrators and the county administrator. That's something that we do quarterly to discuss what's going on in our city. So I hope to learn from our counterparts and to share the exciting things that are happening in Aberdeen. Are there any questions about my report? And lastly, on tonight's schedule, we have a 2026 legislative update from Shelley Helder, who with Gordon Thomas Honeywell, who is our lobbyist for the levy project. She's graciously going to share, just to give us like a sneak peek of what's to come in this legislative session, which is something important for us to be aware of as this is, so that if the council feels strongly about something, you can all take a position and we can work with our legislators to work for us here in Aberdeen. As the largest city, the economic hub of as the largest city on the Washington coast, the economic hub of Grace Harbor County and populous hub. So we're a very powerful city, and our legislators know that, and we want them to work in our favor. So, thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, are there any directors that wish to?
I'm gonna give a quick Q1 update for budget. You guys hear me? That better? Okay, so I'm gonna get my presentation going and share my screen. And you do each have a copy at your places. I'm not gonna go through the whole report. I'm kind of just gonna hit a few of the pieces. And then there's obviously a lot of detail in it. So you have stuff to take with you and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so what we'll kind of talk mostly about the general fund. So for the first 3 quarters or 3 months of the year, so January, February, and March, we're coming in right on budget for our revenue collection. So we're at 25%, which is where we would expect to be. We're a little bit higher with our expenditures in the first quarter. Part of that is due to some one-time costs that we pay out lots of times in January, and then those last for the whole year. An example of that is our yearly insurance payment, and that comes out in January, and it's a rather large payment, and we don't make that again for the rest of the year. We also continue to have the general fund subsidy for EMS because we weren't able to pass that rate increase until April. And so we couldn't change that subsidy either. So that's another reason that you're going to kind of see some of the general fund numbers coming in on the expenditures a little bit higher. And we also had a use of funds from reserves. That was due to both that one-time payment and the continued subsidy for BMS. So some of our revenue details, we haven't received our property tax and any of our property tax for this year. So we will be receiving that in this next quarter, and then we will receive more in October. So that's also on the low side. Another one that I want to point out, we do have our intergovernmental revenues are at 79%, and that is because we have a HC, so a healthcare authority jail reentry program grant that we received, and that was about $500,000. That was unbudgeted, and that also is making us that high. Otherwise, most of the rest of our revenues are coming in pretty close to target. These are the kind of the notes that I actually just talked about, so I skipped ahead a little bit. And then, comparatively to last year, we are up about $695,000 in revenues. So we're doing all right there. And on our general fund expenditures, again, we kind of talked about already, this is just a breakdown of where that money has gone, different category types. And then we already talked about that we're at 29%. And that little comment's just talking with you about the EMS subsidy that we continue to have through that first 3 months of the year. And then the next slide is just going over our general fund reserves. So we are at our net undesignated reserves are at 3.5 million, which is about 59 days in cash. We'd like to be at 90 days in cash, so we still have some work to do there. Again, I think that once we see that subsidy for EMS change, we should start seeing these reserves start to build up a little bit more. But we do still have to be really careful. We just still need to really watch it so that we can continue to build those to get to our target. And then I have some slides in here that kind of go over the utility funds. I'm not really going to go through those too much just because it's a lot of detail, and I've provided those all for each of you, so you can kind of go through those and let me know if you have any questions. Does anybody have any questions at this point? I'll, like I said, I'm not going to go through the rest of these slides because there's a lot of just numbers, so let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other directors? No? We have that presentation, Colby Lyle, our specialist.
So, find it out. I think I'm loud. So, Mayor Council, thank you, for opportunity to do a little presentation tonight. I have Colby Lyle, he's our fire service specialist, bring him in, excuse me, to do a quick little presentation on our community risk reduction program. There's a lot of moving parts in this program that we have. A lot of them that really speak to some of the EMS things that we're still starting to have some discussions on. So I thought it'd be really a great opportunity for Colby to come in and give you a quick snapshot of the programs he manages and those partners we work with. So instead of you having to listen to me anymore, I'll introduce here Colby Lyle, Fire Service Specialist.
Not sure I'm much better, but good evening. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, like Chief said, I'm just going to kind of go through a quick rundown on what our community risk reduction plan is. Other departments throughout the area are starting these programs that what they call CARES. And basically it is to kind of do public outreach, education, and essentially preventative measures to avoid, to kind of put some ease on the 911 system. As you all know, we are a very busy 911 system. And so if we can catch the problem before it happens, that is the ultimate goal, which ultimately saves money, saves crews, and the whole snowball effect. So community risk reduction is educating the community or connecting our community with the appropriate resources and support. And we'll walk through kind of the whole process as it goes. So what is community risk reduction? Community risk reduction, so we'll say CRR for short, is a proactive program by the Aberdeen Fire Department dedicated to connecting residents with vital community resources and safety education. Our mission is essentially to go beyond emergency response by helping families access the support they need before the crisis occurs. We have a highly vulnerable population. We have a lot of elderly citizens that do rely on the 911 system simply because we don't have a lot of medical resources in the area. So the go-to is call 911 and we figure it out from there. So essentially what will happen is, or who this affects is that Aberdeen Fire Department program provides proactive outreach and support to community members who may benefit from additional resources, connection to services, or wellness checks to help them live safely and independently. So this affects seniors living independently in the community, families in need of support or resources, at-risk individuals just requiring wellness checks, and frequent callers to the 911 system. So essentially, a lot of people call 911 when it's not necessarily an emergency, something that's been going on for a while. They just don't know who to go to. So that's where I come in. I'm kind of the bridge between the emergency and getting them the resources that they need. So our services and programs, the Aberdeen Fire Department Community Risk Reduction Program provides essential services to help keep our community safe. Our trained firefighters and staff work directly with residents to address safety concerns and connect them with vital resources. So what happens is I will go in, if I get a referral, and I will do a home safety assessment. Someone's requesting help, or it could be something as simple as just you need help in the house. You live by yourself and you can't manage everything by yourself. So what I will do is I will go in and interview them, and I will also do a home safety survey, look for trip hazards, fire hazards, you name it. And then going from there, I will build into who I will refer them to. So
Can I pause you for just a second? I think you're on slide 4 and we're still looking at slide 1.
Yeah, that was probably my.
sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Hold on, you're not presenting, that's.
This is me on my page. Rely on Casey for a lot of stuff.
And.
We'll see.
No,
No, because you don't want it, it's okay.
you know what you're doing? You know what you're doing? I hope you do.
There. So now,
All right, please tell me if that doesn't catch back then.
You're gonna have to advance to it.
So.
there.
No.
Oh, go back to, you hovered over the wrong. Just click it on the bottom of your PowerPoint. It's there.
Just like it.
Just a little bit. You can see the title.
Our children would need that. Our children would know what to do. It's like,
My daughter.
The whole world's laughing.
Oh, I know.
That's all.
Eric.
Oh my goodness.
There we go.
Where you're at?
Yeah, okay.
Over here.
Just click, okay. See how this goes. We're gonna bridge the gap. So, where was I? Number 2, resource referrals. So, okay, I'll go in and do my home assessment and determine what exactly you're looking for. And essentially, like I said, it could just be extra help at home, or it could be they need in-home medical care, physical therapy, you name it. So I will take that information, and I have plenty of resources outside of here. I'll list a few of them here in just a couple of minutes, but essentially I will connect them with those resources that they need. And then from there, they'll take over, and I will always follow up. I follow up like daily, but just to make sure everything's on track. One of the biggest things we like to do is, as far as that like home safety assessment, is fall prevention education. One of the biggest injury statistics for anybody of any age is falls. And typically as you get older, you don't take falls very well like you did when you were 8 years old. So I will look for trip hazards, anything like that to keep people from falling down, because gravity's not their friend. And another thing we do, smoke alarm installation. We partner with the Red Cross. We get free smoke alarms, and if we find a resident that needs smoke alarms, we will go in, install them for free. And technically, we do this a lot on a 911 call. We put a survey as we're there and determine if they need smoke alarms or not. And that is successful. It actually did save a life right after this program got started. So. Okay, cool. Some of the benefits of the community risk reduction program, the Aberdeen Fire Department's CRR program delivers meaningful results for our community and emergency response systems. So again, preventative care is the name of the game with this. So catch the emergency or catch it before it becomes an emergency. So, like again, I know it's kind of repetitive, but we connect our residents to vital resources that they need, which in the end improves overall safety and health and reduces the non-emergency calls to 911, which in turn also spares our emergency room from extra people that could go to, say, urgent care or their doctor. Again, so just kind of a breakdown. What happens is I will receive a referral from our field workers, and I will go out again and schedule an assessment with them, meet them in their home, meet them, meet family members, and again, go from there. I will conduct that home safety assessment and determine the resources they need. So it is a great program, and it is very effective. And that's why more and more fire departments are going to this sort of CARES route. So these are just some of our local partners. I don't know if you guys can see it, but we work with the Olympic Area on Aging, CAP, Coastal Community Action Program, Sheriff of Health, Harvest Home Health and Hospice, DSHS, the Department of Children and Youth and Families, BHR, Behavioral Health Services, APS, CPS, Red Cross, and many, many more. I got a list 3 pages long of different resources. So it is very nice to have those individuals caring about our community. So this is just my contact information. I'm still pretty new and I'm not the best public speaker.
You're doing great.
So I will also leave my card back there. So if you guys know anybody that needs help, feel free or contact me anytime. So again, thank you for your time and see you out in the community.
All right, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. I couldn't tell you that. Thank you.
All right, now we'll get an update on our legislative session. 2026.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, let me pull up my slides and I will get started. Okay, well, hopefully you can see those slides. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Shelley Helder. I have the privilege of representing the City of Aberdeen as your contract lobbyist in partnership with the City of Hoquiam. And I'm honored to be with you this evening to provide an update on the city's legislative program and specifically the outcomes of the 2026 state legislative session. So there's 3 sections to my presentation this evening. I'm going to start with an overview of the 2026 legislative session, and then I'll review the outcomes of the city's legislative priorities, and then we'll wrap up talking about what happens now, what comes next. So the 2026 legislative session was 60 days. It was referred to as the short session. And it was the second year of the biennium. In the first year of the biennium, it's a longer session, and similar as in the first year, in this second year, Democrats held strong majorities in both chambers. And so they set the priorities for the legislative session. Some of the major themes that came up throughout this session were responding to federal actions, both policy and budget, an attempt to improve the affordability for Washingtonians, and an effort to reform the state's tax code to be more progressive, less regressive. In a short session, the primary objective is to adopt supplemental budgets, which are intended to just make small changes to the state's 2-year budget or the biennial budget. And then in addition to adopting those supplemental budgets, the legislature considers thousands of policy issues. In the short session this year, there were over 1,200 bills introduced, and ultimately 268 passed into law. So the state has three budgets: the operating, the capital, and the transportation budget. The circles on the screen here are my attempt at a proportional representation of the size of those budgets. The most challenging of the three to balance in this short session was the operating budget. And that challenge came because of rising maintenance level costs. So not necessarily expanding programs, but simply maintaining the cost of existing programs. And that was because of the increased caseloads, or the increased number of individuals eligible for existing programs, as well as previous decisions that had delayed effective dates. So often when the legislature passes new policies, they set an implementation date of 2 to 3 years into the future. Well, the 2 to 3 years have now come due, and many of the programs that had expansions authorized, the bill is now due. So that was some of the major cost drivers in the operating budget and why it was so out of balance heading into this short session. The supplemental operating budget increased spending by $2.4 billion. $880 million of that amount is from the state's budget stabilization account, which is often referred to as the rainy day fund, and it's essentially the state's savings account. The largest expenditure in the supplemental operating budget is roughly $1 billion to cover the state's self-insurance liability premium. Insurance rates for every level of government are continuing to rise, and the state is not immune to that expense. The other two budgets, the transportation budget and the capital budget, are traditionally developed in a bipartisan fashion, and that was the case in this short session. The supplemental transportation budget adds $1.2 billion in additional spending, and the real focus for the supplemental budget is increasing investment in the state's maintenance and preservation of the highway system. For several years, the legislature has prioritized system expansion and neglected maintenance. And now many of the state's bridges and highways are in disrepair, and there's a significant backlog that's needed. And so that was the focus of that increased funding in the supplemental budget. Then finally, the capital budget, it's the smallest of the three state budgets, and this supplemental budget authorized an additional $889 million. One of the larger investments in the supplemental budget was an additional $123 million for the state's housing trust fund, which is a competitive grant program that funds affordable housing projects. So before jumping into specifics about Aberdeen's priorities, I just want to provide a perspective on outcomes for cities across the state. So this is kind of a 1,000-foot view. How did cities do in this short session? And I think ultimately it was not terrible for cities, but it was also not exceptional. There were no additional resources distributed to cities. And there was no relief from the demands or the responsibilities that are placed on cities by the state. There were, however, some additional flexibility that was given for existing fiscal tools that cities have. And in spite of it being a challenging budget year for the state, they did not reduce the amount of revenues that they share with cities. For the most part. The one exception to that is there is one of the revenues is the cannabis revenue, and there was a reduction of $5 million in the amount that's shared statewide. But otherwise, all the other state shared revenues were maintained. And that's typically not a practice the legislature does when they're in a difficult budget. And so that was a good sign. I think one of the more, I guess, concerning items when it comes to cities' fiscal situations is the legislature in this legislative session authorized a tax on incomes above $1 million. And in that legislation, they also eliminated the sales tax on certain products. And a result of that elimination of sales tax, it's not just the state sales tax, it's also the local sales tax. And so that has the downstream effect of reducing local sales tax revenues. And the legislature acknowledged this in the bill. And in the 4-year budget outlook, the state allocated $200 million to help offset the impact of that reduction in sales tax revenue. That $200 million is intended to be shared amongst cities, counties, and transit agencies. But it's not yet determined how that funding would be distributed. So taking a look at it holistically, I would say there is room for improvement when we consider how cities fared in the short session. So I mentioned at the beginning that the city of Aberdeen partners with the city of Hoquiam to advance 2 major projects. The first is the flood protection project, and the second is the US 12 grade separated crossing. The flood protection project is something that we began working to secure state funding for back in 2021. And that strategy set us up to then request $18.5 million in the 23-25 biennium, and then an additional $17 million in the 25-27 biennium. And that strategy proved to be successful. A total of $35.5 million is now dedicated to the Aberdeen Hoquiam Flood Protection Project. And that includes the Dry Creek Pump Station, which of course is now complete, the North Shore Levee, and the North Shore Levee West segment. And as I'm sure you know, there is a funding gap to complete the North Shore Levee, and we're in the process of developing a strategy to secure additional state funding in the upcoming biennium. But I do want to set expectations for the future. The level of funding that we've secured so far really has been unprecedented. And we do have some new challenges in the years to come. For the last 16 years, the city has been fortunate to have Representative Steve Theringer serve as a representative. And as for the last 10 years, he served as the chair of the House Capital Budget Committee. And that role positioned him to be able to develop a capital budget that invested in projects throughout the state and also prioritized really strategic investments, specifically the flood protection project. With his retirement from the legislature, we won't have that same level of influence over the capital budget that we have had in the past. And so part of our work over the interim months, the months between when the 2026 session ends and when the 2027 session begins, our work is to strengthen the relationship and really the knowledge base with the presumed new chair of the House Capital Budget, who's Representative Lisa Callan from Issaquah. She took over development of the capital budget this last year while Representative Theringer was out, and has been the vice chair for several years. So she's definitely familiar with the project, but it's important for us to continue educating her on where things are and what needs still remain. The other thing that's worth noting is that if we look at other cities around the state that have a population of similar size to that of Aberdeen and Hoquiam combined, that would be cities like Tumwater or Moses Lake or Mercer Island. These cities are receiving at most $1 to $2 million per biennium in capital budget investments. So if we compare that with the 35.5 million in the capital budget for the flood protection plan. The level of state investment in this project is unique and again, really unprecedented. The city's other priority is the US 12 grade separated crossing. And this is, as you all know, a state highway that functions as a local road and a major thoroughfare for commerce. This project is really essential, and the timing of this project is critical for the region, as well as for ongoing freight mobility. So as a result of our advocacy with both the 19th district and the 24th district legislators, the state has allocated a little over 71 million to this project. And it's sequenced over the course of 4 years. And it was an unexpectedly large sum of money to be allocated to a project when there is very little new revenue available in the transportation budget, because the primary source of funds for transportation budget is gas tax, and that is a declining revenue source because fuel efficiency and electric cars. So the state is still trying to grapple with how to create a sustainable revenue stream for transportation needs. And in the meantime, major projects like US 12 are for the most part being pushed out. We were incredibly fortunate to receive this large sum of money dedicated to the project. And really our primary objective has been to defend the funding. Because dollars are in such short supply, everyone looks to large sums of money to take from other projects, as well as ensuring that the dollars are available at the time that's needed. That's been a challenging thing to balance as well. So while there are two main priorities that the city focuses on, there were countless other issues that the legislature considered. I'm going to cover just two this evening. The first was a priority that was advanced by Greater Grays Harbor, the associate development organization in the Regional Chamber of Commerce. And this request was initiated because of the lengthy timeline to secure a permit for projects that could spur the region's economy. Last summer, Greater Grays Harbor worked with Representative Adam Birnbaum and other stakeholders to kind of try to figure out what are the root causes of the delays for permits, and specifically permits that are administered by environmental agencies. And it was determined that often it's not the initial issuance of the permit, but it's actually the appeal of a permit that results in lengthy delay. The Environmental Land Use and Hearings Office is the state agency that oversees the Pollution Control Hearings Board, and that's who reviews the permit appeals. That board is comprised of 3 members, and state law requires that all 3 members be present to review each appeal. And so the sheer number of permits that are appealed means that the board cannot keep up with the volume of cases. And that's resulted in up to a year of backlog. So to address this, Representative Birnbaum introduced House Bill 2426, and it allows a subset of the board or qualified members from other boards to hear cases when both parties agree to have their cases heard that way. And really this option is about government efficiency. It's about working smarter, not harder. And it's intended to expedite the review of the more simple cases, to create capacity for the board to review the more complex cases in a faster time frame. So the legislature passed the bill this session. It takes effect June 11th. And while it's a seemingly small change, the law that it changed was preventing the government from working in a more efficient manner. And so this is just kind of a common sense solution. And then on the topic of public safety, one notable bill that did not advance, and often we talk about what passed, but just as importantly is what bad ideas did not pass. And the one to note is House Bill 2489. This would have restricted law enforcement's ability to interact with individuals who are experiencing homelessness or in encampments in public rights of way, if there wasn't adequate shelter space within a specific jurisdiction. And cities from around the state expressed really significant concerns with how this would play out and what the unintended consequences of this proposal would be. The bill did advance out of committee, but it didn't make it any further in the process. And I think that should be, and I think is considered a big win. This is the third year that the concept was introduced, and so I do anticipate that it will return in 2027. So now that the legislative session is over, we are in, as I refer to it as the interim, the months between the sessions. And I think really one of the important things to do in the interim months is to do outreach to your state legislators, express gratitude for their the work that they've done to represent your community. As I mentioned, being able to deliver on supporting really significant projects in the region is not something that comes easily. Not every city or every community in the state gets that level of state investment. So it's really important to express gratitude for the legislators' work to make that happen. And then the second most important thing to do is to implement, so to deliver the projects. And I know that's something that the city is working diligently on. And then educate. During the interim is when legislators have more time to dive deeper on issues. A good example is how Greater Grace Harbor met with Representative Birnbaum last interim. They dove deep on what problems that were facing economic development in the region and found a solution. And so that's what really the interim months are all about, is for education and learning. Both for local leaders on what options or what tools are available at the state level, as well as for legislators to better understand local challenges. And then the 2027 session will begin on January 11th. And the success of outcomes in, or I should say successful outcomes in a legislative session are directly related to the work that's done during the interim. And so I can't emphasize enough how important the work is that we do between now and next January. And with that, I will stop sharing and see if there are any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Josh.
I'm curious about the one, person, officer,
Oh, left one.
is there any movement on that?
Shelley, do you know anything about the left one? I think they robbed that account basically, and if you can explain that to one of our councilmen.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, they took $880 million from the state's budget stabilization account and transferred that to the general fund. They then, it's planned to take that $880 million from the left one pension system and backfill the rainy day fund. And the logic behind that, if you can call it logic, is there's a surplus of funds available in that left one retirement account. And for several years, the legislature has been grappling with, well, do we do anything with that money, or do we have it be overfunded? So there's no reduction in pension payouts or any amount of pension promises to left one retirees. It is an excess amount, but it's a question of what should be done with that amount. And this session, the legislature used it to backfill funds in the budget stabilization account.
Thank you.
I was just a little bit interested in knowing why they're gonna bring up 2489 again. Was that not, is it very close, the voting on that?
That's a great question. Yeah, you would think that after 3 years of an idea coming forward and failing, that would mean that it's a bad idea and it shouldn't come back. But I think the reason it will return is because several of the legislators that are championing this concept, I expect will return. And I think that the root of the issue is a doubt in whether law enforcement are truly helping individuals that are experiencing homelessness. And I think that's the crux of the issue is are law enforcement officers doing their best to assist? And I think most people would say yes. The group of legislators that are bringing this policy forward think that not only law enforcement, but also cities and counties and the state could and should be doing more to provide adequate shelter space. And if there is this kind of consequence for not having adequate shelter space, then there will be more incentive to create it. So I think one of the pushbacks on 2489 is you can criminalize people sleeping outside all you want, but until you provide adequate shelter space for them to get inside, they have nowhere to go. And 2489 did nothing to create adequate shelter space. One of the other bills the legislature passed was House Bill 2266, and it is referred to as the STEP housing bill. Supportive housing, permanent supportive housing, emergency shelters, transition shelters. It essentially preempts local control and siting over emergency shelters in GMA planning jurisdictions. So I didn't mention it this evening since it's not applicable in Aberdeen, but that's intended to create more shelter capacity in the areas where it's needed most, or where the legislature thinks it's needed most.
So a situation that we have here in Aberdeen is we have shelter, but there are people who don't and choose not to utilize the shelter, and we can't force them to use the shelter. So, and we don't have the budget, or the means to provide all sorts of different types of places. I hope the state's aware of what the city is up against when it comes to expenses.
Yes, that's an excellent point. And I think that's really one of the strong arguments for why the bill didn't advance further than it did.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Shelley. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Right now, we'll move on to finance chair Fredo.
Okay. That report, we have the first reading of Bill 26-05, requesting the City Council approve the amended ordinance for AMC 13.80.130 regarding the ambulance bill charity program.
Second.
Been seconded by Council President Sport. Is there any discussion on this? What was that? Or was that? Sorry, I just sounded the same, sorry. Seconded by Councilperson Murphy, sorry. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of request to approve the amended ordinance for AMC 13.80.130 regarding the ambulance bill charity program, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's adopted.
Next, we have a resolution requesting the City Council authorize the surplus of the 2001 GMC 3500 one-ton dump truck by resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Councilperson Hubbard. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of council authorizing surplus of the 2001 GMC 3500 one-ton dump truck bed resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, that change was adopted. Move on to, public safety with Chairperson Hubbard.
Okay, we have a few things tonight. We have a report requesting city council approval of the interlocal agreement with the city of Elma for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals. And I move that we accept this.
Second.
There's been. Who said that this now? It's been seconded by Councilperson Nipper. Is there any discussion?
I don't know a lot about it. It looks like we're gonna be doing this for quite a few cities. I suppose that they're gonna support us in financially,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's in the agenda, how much they're,
Yeah.
If these are gonna be-
Okay.
Any more discussion? The city council to approve the interlocal agreement with the city of Elma for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's adopted. Thank you.
Our next report is requesting city council approval of the interlocal agreement with the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals. And I move that we accept this.
Second.
And seconded by Councilperson Nipper. Is there any question or any discussion on this? Seeing none, the request, all in favor for a request to approve the interlocal agreement with the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This is adopted. Thank you.
Our next report is requesting city council approval of the interlocal agreement with the city of Montesano for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals. And I move that we accept this.
Second.
Seconded by Councilperson Nipper. Is there any discussion on this? I just thought that maybe we should consider our county-wide deals. There's a request, by the city, or by the city council approved, interlocal agreement with the city of Montesano for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Our next report requesting the city council approval of the interlocal agreement with the city of Westport for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals. And I move that we accept this.
Second.
And seconded by Councilperson Nipper. Is there any questions or comments on this? All in favor of request to approve the interlocal agreement with the city of Westport for temporary boarding of seized and impounded animals, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you.
And our last report requesting city council approve the second amendment to the agreement between the city of Aberdeen and the Harbor Regional Health Community Hospital. And I move that we accept this.
Second.
And seconded by Councilperson Nipper. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of the request by council to approve the second amendment to the agreement between the city of Aberdeen and Harbor Regional Health Community Hospital, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This passes. Thank you. All right, and moving on to public works with Chairperson Ramsey.
At today's meeting, we had a good discussion of conveyance and focusing on sidewalks and roads. We've got one item today, and it's requesting city council to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with Sumac, Simmons, and I mean, we accept this with it.
Second.
Seconded by Councilperson Hubbard. Any discussion? Councilperson Wilson, sorry.
How did you get to this, Somax Simmons and Dunn? How was that, decision?
This person, Michelle Chester, is the attorney that we're hoping to secure in this contract along with other team members. Became recommended from Van Ness Feldman. Van Ness Feldman is the group that we hired, specifically Jenna Mandel Rice is who we hired to represent us in the negotiations with Tacoma Power for the Wainuchi Dam perk license renewal. Tacoma Power is a very powerful group, no pun intended, but they really are. And they have retainers and relationships with almost every law firm in Washington state. So it was nearly impossible for us to find a law firm here in the state that hadn't already represented Tacoma in some capacity. And because of that conflict, Jenna is no longer able to represent us if things progress with Tacoma Power. So she recommended this group out of California, which is allowed to practice law in Washington state. They're also very well versed in water law and FERC licensing and all the things that we need, that are related to the dam. So that's
So you thoroughly went through Seattle? Because I used to work for Stanislaw Law, and I know that they have some people in that area. But I just wanted to make sure that because the amount of money per hour, the hourly rate, and them being so far away, I was just a bit concerned about the charges for if they need to come up here and you're paying for flight time and hotel and that kind of thing. So, and just so that everybody knows, when attorneys charge, it's gonna be one of the prices.
Yeah, so there are very few law firms that actually deal with water law and environmental law, and Cascadia Law was really the only one that has a good reputation, and they represent Tacoma. Jenna Mandel Rice, she is about $798 an hour. Michelle Chester is about $420 an hour. So she is, a lot less in cost when it comes to in comparing the two. But yes, you're right. But the two law firms that recommended are Van Ness Feldman and Cascadia Law. And so we want to make sure that we're getting represented by the best attorneys that we can that come recommended by other attorneys in the field. So thank you. Yeah.
Any discussion? So there's a request to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with Summit Simmons and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Move on to special committee items with Council President Swan.
Tonight for special committee items, we just have the third reading of Bill 26-03, requesting city council approve the amendments to AMC 8.08.040 regulations related to shopping carts. I'm going to accept this third reading.
Second.
Seconded by Councilperson Ginsburg. Discussion on this. In that, all in favor of the third reading of Bill 26-03, requesting city council approve the amendment to AMC 8.08.040 regulations related to shopping carts, say aye.
Aye.
This is a third reading, so we're doing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, Ramsey,
Yes.
Hodgkin,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Moynihan,
Yes.
Nippert,
Yes.
Fredo,
Yes.
Raddick,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Four, yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, motion.
All right, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to public comments again. If there is anyone interested in making a public comment, limited to 3 minutes and start with your name and your board. All right, seeing none, move on. Is there anything for the good of the order? Councilperson Spar.
I'd just like to bring up that this coming Friday, the hospital is rolling out Meditech Expanse, new EMR program. This has been years and years in the making and tens of millions of dollars. And this is bringing the local hospital up to state of the art for your medical records and their connectivity. We also are opening the second floor, which is a significant development. And we are making great progress on the additional walk-in capacity on the Classic Boulevard. Good milestones.
Thank you. That council really is wonderful.
Yes. To start, I want to remind everyone of the town halls next week, May 6th, at Robert Gray Elementary, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Wards 4, 5, and 6. May 20th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Miller Junior High, Wards 1, 2, and 3. With that, we also need to start thinking about budget workshops for this year. So I would like to make a motion that we host a budget workshop both on June 3rd and September 2nd of this year.
Second. Second by council person.
I will email these out, no need to scurry and write them down.
Okay, all in favor of having a workshop on June 3rd and September 2nd, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's good. Okay, now we'll, the motion moving to a closed session.
Going to a closed session to review negotiations and the performance of publicly bid contracts and public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs for no more than 30 minutes with no action expected after the session.
Second.
Second by council vice mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, and 8:06.
I'll promise to see you right now.
Yeah. We're gonna be in trouble.
We have to be seated and dismiss.
Motion to reconvene.
The second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second session.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Okay, thank you guys for coming. Have a wonderful night.
I go down, I go, it's 8:30 minutes.